Ranieri a knighthood. And I put on Facebook one of the greatest managers in the world who won with two provincial teams, won it with Derby County, won it with Nottingham Forest, won the European Cup twice, and they can't knight him. And he's from, Yorkshire, and yet they want to knight the one who's from Italy. So I just had a bit of a pop at it. Not taking it away from what Leicester have achieved. I think it's a phenomenal achievement, especially in today's game, because of the amount of money that's available in today's game. So don't take anything away. I think they've had a tremendous season. I think they've been refreshing to watch. They've played with this, what I call a good camaraderie between the players. They don't concede many goals, and they've got people like, and I'm pleased for Vardy because it's proved again that you can find a player in the non-league scene who comes forward. And, they picked him up, and he's been very refreshing with his pace and the goals that he scored. So I think it's a great achievement for Leicester City. If they can win the European Cup next year, that'll be even more of a great achievement. But we'd have to wait and see. Only time will tell on that.
I think there's more chance of me juggling Sutter or playing for you and Stephen in that game and scoring a hat-trick against the Villa's old boys and a few of the supporters as well. Going forward to June for England, would you start Vardy up front with Harry Kane? I would, and I would play Vardy for one reason. I think his pace frightens defenders, he stretches the games, and I think a player like that is just so important. And couple that with he scores goals, left foot, right foot, head, or anywhere on the pitch. I think he's a great player.
I think that there's been now, they've been pushing forward. I mean, Andy Carroll come back into the West Ham team and scored goals, and they're saying, oh yeah, you need to bring him back, you need to do this. I think that Roy's knows in his mind which the squad is going to be. And you're right, because when I was playing, and I played with Trevor, who had pace. So we had a sort of little and large sort of situation with regards to me being the target man and then Trevor working off it. Same happened with Tony Woodcock, same happened with Gary Shaw. And I think that would be a great asset, certainly with Kane, who's sort of big, strong. I don't look at him in the mould that I was in, but he's certainly a very good talent. And as you rightly said, Vardy's got pace and can see things, and has just got an eye for goal. And I think that this is where, when you look at Brian Clough, who never managed England, who should have been given the opportunity to manage England, he wouldn't give a monkey's. If you were 18 years old or you were 40 years old, if you were doing it week in, week out, he'd pick you. And I think that's the important thing at this moment in time, is them players have done it for the whole season. And he should, by right, stick with them players. But he's got some other options that he can wear with. But I think you're right, Vardy and Kane have got, to me, two strikers who can frighten defences to death.
I think you're right. Going back to Brian Clough, I'll give everybody one name: Gary Birtles. I mean, he picked him up from non-league, and I think Nigel Jemson. I think Brian Clough's news agent told him all about Nigel Jemson, and he went and signed him. Brian always seemed to be able to pick up gems. But then when he bought what would be perceived as the finished article, they didn't quite work for him. Ian Wallace being one, and Justin Fashanu rather, being another one that didn't work there at Forest.
Yeah, well, I think that, we talk about the Clough and the Taylor era, and the movies that they've made with regards to the pair of them. And just to enlighten you a little bit more about the way that they worked, Peter Taylor was what we call the finder, and Brian Clough was the manager. So Peter Taylor used to find the talent, and this talent was, sometimes raw talent, like myself, like Gary Birtles, like Tony Woodcock. These type of players, they sort of, Peter spotted them, and then Brian brought out the best of them players. I mean, a typical example is Kenny Burns.
Yeah.
You know, I remember Brian Clough coming to me and saying to me, Peter Taylor and Brian Clough, and saying to me, what about Kenny Burns? And my first reaction was, are you serious? So he said, what do you mean? So I said, well, you know, he goes through these stages where he gets into trouble quite a good number of times. And he said, yeah, but can he play? And I said, oh, he can play. I said, he's a talent. He's got 2 good feet, pass the ball. You know, he's not going to run around for you, but if you want someone who's going to be able to, you know, supply passes and stop people, yeah, and of course, they signed him, and the rest was history.
Was you in that game where he headbutted the Arsenal player that was in your wall?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it was funny because we won. That was the first game we lost, basically. And it was a lad called Richie Powling who tried to push into the wall and just open it up a little bit. And then Kenny just had one of his blockages and just headbutted him in the back of the head. But, typical of Brian Clough, at half time when we came into that dressing room, his first words was, hey young man, you might have been a thug before, you won't be a thug for me. So he basically told him in no uncertain terms that if he wanted to do that sort of thing, he wouldn't be playing football again. That's what he actually said to him. He said, I'm your last hope, young man. If you don't play for me, you won't play for anyone.
You never trained much as well. I did watch the film, I Believe in Miracles, and Johnny Owen, who made the film, is going to be on our show within a couple of weeks. And in that film, he alluded to the fact that Forest players hardly trained.
Yeah, well, it was, you know, we played that many games. If you look at Nottingham Forest, we won the championship with 15 players. So, you know, if you played 2 games a week, then, you know, we'd play on a Saturday, and then he'd say to us, see you at the game on Wednesday. So, you know, you had sort of 3 days off to regenerate your body. So it wasn't a question of coming in and just doing, you know, a little bit of run, a little bit of stretching or anything. He'd just give you time off to recharge your batteries. And I think that was one of the reasons why players of that era, as it were, and players that played, you know, maybe a lot longer than what they probably would have done. I mean, I played till I was 39. I played my last game at 39 years old. And probably that sort of time allowing us to... And I was a runaholic, to be fair. I mean, I used to train for fun. But he used to just give you this time off just to regenerate your batteries, and it worked because when we got on that field after the break, we were running around like spring chickens.
Now I'm guessing that the other manager, who's another genius, Ron Saunders, was the polar opposite. Now I've just passed Stephen me piece of paper. I've written down the names of 2 players. If you could pick one player from your Nottingham Forest team and one player from your Aston Villa team, who would the player from Forest and Villa be that you'd pick? That if you wanted one in your team for you, your all-time 11, who would it be? Got one out of one. Who's the next one? Bang on. Thank you, Peter. And the evidence is there by your son. I've just wrote Sid Cowans and John Robertson, 2 of the greatest British players to ever grace a stadium or a pitch, and how we need players like that today.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at Birmingham, I mean, we had a very, if you remember, when I first came back at Birmingham City, we had, you know, Freddie Goodwin, who was the manager at the time, just had this thing about accumulating players, and I couldn't believe how many players that we had in our squad at the time. There was something like 35 players who'd all played in the first team. It was unbelievable, the squad that we had, and he sort of, if you remember, he saw Bob Latchford and got 3 players for Bob Latchford. So he got rid of 1 player and brought 3 players in. Of course, one of them was one of the to me, one of the best uncapped players, as is Dennis Mortimer, in Howard Kendall. You know, and so we had players in our team at that time, like Howard Kendall, who just went what I actually talked about. He was the one who was instrumental in organising the team and getting players to G up and things like that.
Absolutely. You played for Wolves, firstly, in the Midlands.
Yeah.
I've not researched nothing, because I don't like to research, Pete. I like to talk about football from my memory. Didn't you then go to South Africa and Birmingham brought you back from South Africa?
No.
Oh, okay, I'm wrong.
No, it's, I actually played in South Africa and came back to Wolves from South Africa.
Got ya.
And then I went to America, and I played in America, and then Freddie Goodwin flew out to America to watch me play and signed me when I was in America. So it's, unfortunately, he signed me and I couldn't get back for the start of the season. I missed the first, I think it was the first 3 or 4 games, which they lost. And then when I came back, we won the next. We drew the first one and then won the next 2 and then we sacked them.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, Goodwin out and the board must go. There was quite a lot of that at Birmingham. Mind you, we put up with a lot of rubbish these days and we don't do much about it. Before I leave, you know, your time has been much appreciated and we're going to draw it to an end. A pre-season tour, it was either Holland or Belgium. Joe Gallagher told me about it. There was the likes of you, Gary Jones, Kenny Burns. You had a bit of a ruck in a bar.
Yes, we went to, it was Holland actually.
Yeah.
We played and then the manager, it was Willie Bell, who took over then. And I was just coming back from a cartilage operation. So I went on the tour just to play maybe 15, 20 minutes in the games. And we all went in our separate ways, as it were, and found bars. And then we found this little quiet bar. I was with Joe, and Trevor Francis was with Tony Want in the bar. And then all of a sudden, from nowhere, Burnsy and Jonah come in, and there was a snooker table in the middle of the bar. And then we were just sitting, Joe Gallagher and I were just sitting on these stools watching. Burnsy wanted to get involved because he liked snooker, and Jonas said, yeah, come on, we'll have a doubles match. And then, I don't know what happened in the end, but I know that all of a sudden, Jonah come and sat in between me and Joe, and this guy come over and sort of pointed the finger at him and spoke to him in Dutch, and all of a sudden slapped him around the face, which we thought, no, not on that, so it kicked off then. So it was, and it was funny because it kicked off and everyone was sort of doing it. And I just remember looking over at Trevor and Tony once, and they were just watching, you know, things flying over their head. Okay, we're going to go now.
Right, we're going to wrap it on a good one. Pete, can I thank you so much for your time? And when you come back to Birmingham, you'll have to come in here with Steve and we'll talk about football forever and a day. And good luck with everything that you do moving forward.
Okay, thanks for that. Enjoy.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers, thank you. All right. Yeah, Steve.
Oh,
There we go. Brilliant. Legend. We'll just play.
I'll ring you later.
Fantastic. Cheers.
No worries.
Superb.
Oh, good, that wasn't he?
Well, like when you just get a legend like that talking football, mate, it's like you don't want to just do 5 or 10 minutes. Let's just talk and talk.